We're going to basically go back and talk about the face pieces a little bit, and most of it's identifying what we're doing, what we got, and where we're going, all that kind of good stuff. We're familiar with this. We've been wearing it forever and ever and ever. One of the ways, the best way to identify whether you have a 2000 or a 3000 out there is simply by looking at the size of the voice emitters that are on here. These are basically kazoos. They're basically transmitting our voice, our sound pressure and vibration out of the face piece a little bit better. But if you look at the size here compared to here, we're going to have a lot better communications out of the face piece because of the size itself. The kazoos or the voice emitters have always been out here on the outside right here. And what they've done to increase the intelligibility out of a face piece is they moved them to where they're sitting right down here, right on our chin, right on our face right there. So when we're talking, it's catching up all that voice communication and punching it out of the face piece a lot better. The comm bracket that was on them, when we get what we're going to have, it will have a comm bracket on this side right here. Before, we've had one that's been totally closed around it. And on the 2000, it was basically sitting here, and it had one clamp that came in here. And if you put it on there and didn't check it, you know, every 2 or 3 times a month or like that, it would eventually work its way off just because it was moving around. The new comm brackets are a 3-point contact, and basically when it's on there, we're going to have to worry about this thing working off, because this wasn't a deal, put it on and leave it on there and never look at it again. You had to go check it and make sure it was on there tight and seated good. That'll go away. But the comm bracket that'll be here now, we're testing right now, is we make a closed version, we make an open version too. And on certain of the communications we're testing, the comm bracket on this side is open, so we can pick up the mechanical side of the voice amp side of it, and basically get better fireground communication by just what we got with the mask. We're finding right now in the testing we've done so far that talking room to room, down the room, 10, 15, 20 foot from each other, this mask is better than this mask with a voice amp on it, just having nothing on it. And so that intelligibility is going to improve just the room and contents communications like that. But the design at that point, that's where the similarities stop. On the 2000, we've been used to the way the thing works, and when we pull and cinch up that face piece, we're pulling off the lens right here. We're getting a hard pull off of that. It snatches to our face and it cinches down. We're used to it. We don't have to mess with it. We know it's there. The rubber seal itself is polyisoprene. Most all of you have been wearing what's called a comfort seal. It had a reverse bellows in it, where the original mask was just a flat seal. So you had to yank that thing down on your face to get a seal. And you come out of it, you have a headache, the red ring, and all that kind of good stuff. And the seal designs have changed to accommodate the positive pressure that's inside the mask. So if we're mashing that face piece down like we've done since the 70s, we've actually defeated the purpose of this seal, because it doesn't allow the positive pressure to come in here and help reinforce that seal up on our face when we click it on the regulator. All the similarities at that point change. You can see that the lens itself is more conical, so it is more impact resistant, so we can get a better off angle if we get hit in the face piece with something. The other side of it is we're used to coming in and a regulator docking straight in. This one is at a lower angle. So when you're putting a regulator in, it's going to be down here, so your field of vision is going to be better down through here and in front of you on both sides of it too, because the regulator is not sitting right here in front of your nose. The exhalation and everything else is still the same. The 3000, along with most all of the other seals out there for folks in the world that's been wearing a sock hood, the traditional way of putting a sock hood has always been on the rubber part. We're one of the only areas in the country that hard seals on the lens. If you go outside of our area right here in these 7 counties areas, because that's what we teach everybody is hard seal on the lens, you go everywhere else, everybody else has been sealing back here, and everybody else has been wearing this mask since basically 05, 06 type of thing. We're one of the largest AV3000 users in the world, along with a lot of the chem plants and refineries, because they've got so many of them. But the docking area coming in through here is at a lower angle, so we got to get used to that. When we pull the straps on this face piece, it's like the old days when we had the old 5-point rubber spiders and the big old elephant trunk. We pulled off of the seal on those face pieces. They've gone back to that, and so it's going to feel a lot different. But the seal design of this has an internal seal on it that hits our face, and when we're cinching the face piece down, this is what's wrapping our face, but we're pulling the seal off of the outside tabs here. So it's a whole different don and doffing type of a proposition, because it feels different, it works different, and so we really can't do anything we've been doing with the 2000. But one of the most important things is how we put this thing on. It doesn't seem like it makes that much difference, but if you're putting a face piece on like a scuba mask, it's for a scuba system, not an air pack system. I've been with Scott 18 years, and our donning process has always been the chin goes in first, the head net goes over after that. And that's the way that, you know, we've been teaching the air pack face pieces to be installed. So the correct way to put this face piece on per the manufacturer is you can hold this however you want to do it to get it on, but your chin needs to go in first. Make sure it's seated on your face. If you cinch your straps down up here, they're pretty much set all the time. You don't really have to do much with them unless you want to. But when I do that, I have to make sure this head is pulled all the way down to the back of my skull. When I'm there, I pull the strap straight back. What we don't want is straps pulled out like this. We have to change what we're doing on that, especially with this mask. They should go straight back. Every time you make an adjustment here, cover that hole up where the regulator docks and suck in. If it pulls to your face, you got a negative pressure test right there. Really, why you don't have to pull this stuff down any further to where your head starts to get mashed in, because I just deformed the seal right there. When I click in, I'm going to positive pressure. Right now, I got this mask too tight for what I need to do. Because what I've done is I already got these set. This is my mask. These are going to stay all the time. When I'm done doing this, I do this. I'm ready to click in because it's sucked in my face. So what we're doing by cranking this thing down like we've been doing is what we were taught to do back in the 70s when we had to do it, because we didn't have positive pressure back then. We had to actually suck the air out of the face piece, so we had to mash it down on our face so we didn't get any leaks. The other thing is, when you come out of the face piece, you grab these two metal tabs right here, pull those, and I'm back out to the stops. And when I have to put this thing back on in a hurry, I don't have to fight them straps. So the seal here is called polyisoprene. It's a surgical rubber. It don't have any latex material in it. It's a lot spongier. This face piece will feel like it's floating on your face. Instead of small, medium, or large, the way you tell is they're embossed right here on the bottom of the seal right here. If you have a small, they will also have these little bullet tabs right here. They'll be green. If it's a medium, they'll be black. If it's a large, they'll be red. Same color coordination we've had on the AV3000. So it kind of falls in lines like that. But the true key to this whole thing is right here is to having this head net seated to where it's back behind your skull, and that you do bottom straps and do a negative pressure test before you click in. And face piece cleaning, antibacterial soap and water. Nothing with iodine, or nothing with ammonia. I mean, iodine's okay. Nothing with ammonia or bleach. Again, antibacterial soap and water. We're under an OSHA standard. Have been forever and ever and ever. I'll give you the part number. It don't mean anything, but it's 29 CFR 1910-134. And it's the respiratory protection program that we are all under, from the military all the way down to anybody that uses a respirator. It says, which we don't do, maybe we'll have to start doing it, every respirator shall be cleaned, inspected, and disinfected after every use. So talking about cleaning again. Easy flow regulator. We know that's where the air blows out of the regulator into our face piece. This is the closest thing to the fire. It ain't protected by nothing. This again is under that same NIOSH standard, or OSHA standard, and it is basically required to be cleaned after every use. And it's a simple clean. Normally, however you want to do it, a bottle of soapy water, and especially if you're coming in taking over that riding position. We don't know, maybe they made a big fire the day before and they were inside and they got, asbestos and sheetrock mud and insulation all over them and everything on the pulling ceilings. I want to make sure that I clean that regulator, and I'm going to check about 5 or 6 different things on it. But first I'm going to start off by taking that spray bottle of soap and water, and I'm going to put about 10 or 12 pumps inside that regulator and swish it around. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to put about the same amount inside the top of that regulator where them opening parts are, because that's the exhalation discharge side of the regulator. This is the inhalation side right here. And I'm going to do that, and I'm going to dump it out, and I'm going to hit it again and let it sit, because the CDC says to decon anything, you have to leave it in that decon solution for 10 minutes. Now, if we make a run, you can basically take that thing and shake it out real good. When you get it hooked up on there, blow the purge on it, and you get the air out of it. But this end could be soaking wet, and as soon as you click in, it's going to blow air because it's waterproof. So we need to make sure we're making this work good. And when I'm doing that, I want to make sure I'm checking this lock button right here. I want to make sure this spring is moving free, looking good, and it's making a good clean snap like that. Make sure that the guy before, whoever before had this, didn't pull a bunch of stuff and get a bunch of sheetrock mud and ash in here. It's fouling that spring that's keeping this thing from working right. We know that we got 2 flats right here we got to hit. We know we got 2 flats right here we got to hit. We've done it forever and ever and ever. We learned in local school. When I click in, this thing's in there. It's not coming out, but I got to click it all the way around to lock in, and it ain't coming out then. But I need to inspect all the time this regulator button right here. And I want to make sure that these edges on the bottom side are square and aren't wore down. Because what happens if I got a button right here that has wore down edges and they're rounded off and everything, and I go into a square track, what don't I have? Positive lock. We can take, as technicians up here, we can take these 2 screws out, move this bracket forward, pull that button out, and put a new one back in less than 5 minutes for about $3, somewhere around in that area, and replace that lock button. This is the first thing we need to inspect. Go look at all of them. Teach your guys at the station to look at that every day. Clean your regulator out with soap and water. At the same time, make sure this HUD boot ain't all tore up and flopping around. Make sure the HUD lights are working, because if we come off the truck and these HUD lights aren't working, guess what? We're not compliant. They have to be operational. Whether we pay attention to them or not, they all have to be working. Make sure the purge knob is moving smooth. That's not feeling like it's got gravel in it or crinkling or whatever, especially riding curbside backwards. Get slammed in the door on that side. We want to make sure we check that regulator continuously all the time. Also the gasket here, that's something else we got to be looking at all the time. If it's cut, snagged, got rips in it, that needs to be cleaned up and fixed by the radio or the air pack shop. Make sure the Donnan switch is working good. On the original air packs that we have up until the 2013s, we were able to push on the cover and actually drop the demand lever down and start this thing free flowing just like we come out of the face piece. The regulator has to flow a minimum of 400 liters per minute to pass NFPA. They tell us when we're here talking to each other, we're at about 40 liters per minute. If we're inside pulling ceilings and humping hose and everything, we're at 100, 110, working hard, 400 right here. So it has to do that. But the main thing is I want to make sure that I check the spray bar right here. There's a bunch of holes right here. You all have seen those, know where they're at? That's where our airflow is coming from. That's where our breathing air is coming through the reducer or the cylinder through the reducer up into our face piece. I want to make sure that thing's cleaned up. There's not a bunch of garbage sitting on that. Because when I click in, if y'all want to do it, click it into your face piece, peel the heads up display back and look, those spray bars sitting right there in the lens where I click in is right there in an opening manifold and nose cup. That's where my breathing air comes. When it comes in, when we push air into a bottle to fill it up, we compress air. When we compress air, it heats it up. It expands. When we breathe air out, the harder we're working, the cooler it gets. You can actually take a bottle and sit out there and open that thing up and hold on to it real good. And the more air, the faster you blow it out, it actually ice up that cylinder valve. So as we're breathing on the cylinder, we're running out of air. We're actually cooling the air down more, the hotter, the more we're working in it. But one thing that we've got, because we've got the best gear out there, all of our sensors are gone. We can't feel this no more. Those went away a long time ago. 2 key things are, if our breathing air is hot, what's happening? Heat soak is not our friend. That's what we're doing. When you got our hot breathing air, that's when the first signals. Atmosphere is way beyond where we should be doing, right? I see you guys checking something here because I went by that. So we used to be able to do this to get it free flowing. If we got somebody down that's out that can't hit that regulator and get it going, or we got somebody out there in the public we got to get on there that doesn't know how to do it. This went away because we can't push it. But if you do that with your gloves on, it does the same thing. Don't go banging it on a table and stuff like that to get it doing it. Clap it like that in your hand on the bottom of the regulator, and it starts that air flowing out of there just like if we hit it when it was in the face piece. So bottom line, if you don't have any soap and water like that to clean it, merely just taking it over to the sink, open the faucet up to where it's running, fill the regulator up, dump it out, and just clean it and make sure we're inspecting all the regulator, all the stuff we talked about, and make sure it's working properly. When you turn the bottle on, you can actually test, make sure the spray bar is working good, hook it up, even if it's wet and everything, and you don't want to hit it to get it going, just do that. It'll start free flowing, just making sure that the Donnan switch is working good and all that stuff. That should be the part of the everyday air pack check, along with some of the other stuff we're going to talk about. One of the things we do in the fire service is we've had the mask on, we've got everything cinched down, we've got our hood on here. We come out of the building and we yank the face piece off with the regulator still in it, with the strap still tight. What are we doing to this contact point right here, where these 2 pieces made up? We do it, we're going to do it because we want to come off that face piece and get out fresh air and everything. That's major benefit for this regulator docking area. When we pull this, we've got rehab air immediately. We can talk to each other. But when we pull this face piece off time and time again with these straps cinched down and everything else, we're creating a tremendous torque point right here between this regulator and where it hooks into our face piece. So this is a inspection point right here, is to basically check this out right here. And what this is I've seen this where it's been done over and over and over, time and time again, with the straps pulled down 100 pounds too much, that this is actually broke off the regulator because of pulling it off like that. We've done it. The other thing is, what we do is it's hanging like this on the fire ground all over the place. It's banging into stuff. We're running in there and said, hey Joe, give me a pike pole. We need to pull these cabinets off. It's hanging all over the place. We're inside with it hanging like that. The straps are still tight. What happens is we got to get on air real quick. And this has got anything in that mask. We hit that air, where's that 400 liters per minute going to go? And whatever's in that mask, it goes in your airway. At that point, this air pack is totally different than what we've been used to using. The main thing NFPA did to us is they changed the pass device tone, which we'll never hear our old pass device tone again. On everybody's air pack, they changed the tones for the 2013 air pack. And again, they changed it again in December because the original qualifications they had didn't meet the specifications that it was supposed to, and a couple of the manufacturers didn't even meet that. But this is what the pass device is going to sound like. And you can check that every day, and we need to be, is push the manual Mayday button. That's what we're going to hear from now on. The one before this one that they changed was even worse than this. So that's what we got to get used to. And we were doing a Save Your Own scenario over in Austin, and they've been wearing O2 packs since '02, right? And we put these packs on them, and this is one of the most confusing things for them while they were doing that scenario, because we didn't tell them it was going to be coming with that. They couldn't identify what was going on. So it's something we got to get used to. You don't think a noise would make that much difference, but what we've been used to hearing, we ain't going to hear it no more. Does the same thing. It still has the same motion sensor, the same time before it ramps up, before it goes into full alarm. So that's where we're at. The air packs that y'all are getting are going to have a gauge console on it, which is a little bit different from what you've been used to using. We've been used to seeing something like this. It will come with a gauge console like this. By itself, it looks huge. But we're carrying a gauge or another console on us now that's huge. We call it a brick, right? It's hanging on someplace else that does something. This air pack does everything that brick's doing and more. But this is the real true size. Yeah, it's bigger, but it ain't that much bigger. But this is a transceiver. And if we go to this system, which we might, it will basically have a data downloader in here that will report my riding position. It'll report to command how long my bottle's been turned on. It will give command what my air pressure is. And if I go down and my pass device goes off, I come to the top and flash pass. If my vibrator comes off, I come up into the top and flash low air. The pass device is still going to be the same. The O2s, like I said, to identify an O2 air pack, if you have two 9 volts in the pass device, that's a 2002 NFPA standard air pack. If you have 6 AA's out here, that will be an 07. Everything from 07 will have 6 AA's out here. The first way we need to be doing every day when we come in to check that air pack before we check anything is hit the yellow reset button with nothing turned on. I want to get a green blip up here. I want to go back here, green to on the back lights back here. These are crew integrity or buddy lights, and that's a double check of what's going on, but we need to be checking our battery status every day because we found out after some testing and everything from some other fire departments that the battery designs, if once they go dead and start to dissipate voltage, they start to expand. In order to compensate that, the battery companies allow them to off-gas their own battery acid. So again, the pass device has 2 speakers on it. Everything on this air pack is redundant. Got backups on it. We got a speaker blowing out this way, one this way here. On both sides of it, it has these tail gunner lights, crew integrity lights we're talking about. Can you find that page there? When we turn our air pack on, we want the pass device to be good. We want everything to be working good. The battery's good. The air supply good. Motion sensor. These LED lights right back here will be flashing green. If I'm behind you, I can look at your air pack and know everything's looking good. If the air pack starts to, because of no motion, starts to ramp up into pre-alarm pass device, normally nobody knows whose it is, and everybody's looking around whose it is. These lights back here will be wig-wagging red. Same thing with the LEDs up here, they'll be oscillating red. If the pass device, we're standing around or we're looking for somebody whose pass device is off and they're both flashing red, that's the air pack that the pass device is going off, and the same oscillating wig-wag will be up here. So I can look in and I've got a pass device going off. I got lights I can actually look for, so with the speakers on both sides in different directions, if we're down and got sheetrock on us and everything else, I got a 50-50 chance that a light's coming out and the noise is coming out. One other thing that NFPA did on the buddy breathing side right here, we used to be able to plug into this coupling with anything, anywhere. And we can still do that with everything but the regulator now, because they require a collar right now, because in their value, they do not want us to plug into the air pack buddy breathing type of thing without the heads-up display connected, hooked up and working. This is a high-pressure airway right here. We need to be checking this to make sure that it's not full of sheetrock, mud, and ash, and everything else, because if I come in and plug into that and it's plugged up because it's never been checked and cleaned, you ain't getting no air. The other thing I can do with this by design, again, opposite side of the hand wheel, it's on right on the CGA coupling. You got to plug into this, not the CGA coupling. In many people's mind, this is the fastest way there is to get somebody on rescue air, if you can make this coupling. That way I don't have to worry about pulling a regulator, making that regulator hook up, doing whatever, because when I plug this in, if I come in with any type of a bottle, equal pressures, I will, if this bottle is full or whatever, it will equalize off to 2200 PSI. 2200 left in the rescue cylinder, 2200 into here. I can leave them hooked up and get the full 4500 PSI off this cylinder, let them breathe off of it. I can actually cut this cylinder off and they will still breathe through this thing and get the rescue cylinder. Or I can put 2200 into you, unplug, go over and put 2200 on you, but I can't put 22 in the cylinder. I can level off at 1100. But I can put 22 into you, put 2200 onto you with one cylinder. Cylinder valves. How many turns on a cylinder valve does it take from open or closed all the way open? You put that up there. Good. So it's 2.5 revolutions, but it takes all of them. If you're going down the street backwards like that, how many turns you getting out of it? Not many. Not many. Turn it till it stops turning. This is a wide opener, it's off. It's also important as we check each other, which way do I check your cylinder valve to crank on it to make sure it's open? Because we know a lot of times it's not turned on all the way. That's why we reinforce it doesn't matter how many turns it's in it to get it open, it's all of them until it stops turning, type of thing. But the pressure reducer is designed to give us a backup. So if we ever had a problem in that primary I was showing you, there's a transfer valve in there that senses that and transfers us to the secondary and turns our vibe alert on, because the vibe alert lives in the secondary where high pressure is, not in the primary. So if our vibe alert's going off, we should be looking at our gear gauge, our heads-up display, and if our gauge is not showing in the red and our HUD is not splashing red, we got good air, vibe alert's going off, we got something going on, we need to get out. When we're checking air packs, we should be checking everything, turn the bottle on, and all the HUD lights should come on, and they come on for somewhere around 20 seconds. It's going to process checking our electronics and our batteries and everything else, and there's a HUD light up in here on the top right side that if we have low batteries and when we're checking this, it's flashing red at us. Once all the lights come off, all the lights will come off, and we need 2 greens to come off the apparatus. 2 greens means full. We can be plus or minus 10%. As we breathe down, it goes to 1 green, which is 3/4 bottles. It goes to a yellow flashing light, which is half bottle. That's really important now because the low air alarm, the vibe alert, used to go off forever and ever at 1125 PSI, 25%, quarter bottle. It's at 33% now. So if we're at half bottle now, we think we got 2,200 pounds left because we sucked a half a bottle down, we got a half bottle left. We basically now the vibe alert would go off halfway between that. Now it's going off at 1,500 PSI. So when we're at half bottle, 2,200, we got 700 pounds of air left before the vibe alert goes off. Time to where are we? How deep are we? Where's the cruise size up? Who's coming in? All that kind of good stuff. It's a whole different world now. There's a little NFPA standard that says we can't be in the IDLH area anymore with the vibe alert going off. To them, it's the same as the Mayday. It's up to us whether we want to comply to it or not. But it doesn't matter whether it's a paragraph or a whole book about that. That's the standard change, and it's not new. It's been out since 08. So again, most important part of this whole heads-up display, if you're inside working, yellow flashing light, half bottle. What are we going to do? It's up to us. So anything else on any of that? So when you're checking this thing, we're at the air pack, checking it every day. What we normally do once we've done any checking and looked at anything, shut the bottle down, we go, they go, and all the air goes out of it, and go, we haven't checked anything at that point. We've turned the bottle on and we've done whatever we've done, but the correct way to do it is to shut the bottle off, and you can bleed it down with a purge. Watch the headlights go down all the way down. When you get to the vibe alert, shut it off and let it go through the whole vibe alert, because what we're doing is checking that pressure reducer, transferring from primary to secondary, making sure it's working. And if we have blown the purge out like we always do, we haven't really done nothing. We haven't checked the closest thing to the fire, that's our life support. So again, it's a reality check. You know, it's us, we get to choose what we want to do with it. Hand wheels. We tend to tighten stuff down until it stops and give it 10 more cranks out of it with the McGill grip. It's everything on a Scott air pack is hand tight, whether it's this or shut down a cylinder valve. You don't have to put this on to where you got to get a vice grips on it to get it back undone and everything. It's hand tight snug. This has a nipple O-ring seal that's in it right here. It's a preventive type of a thing, and if you take this thing loose when there's any air pressure on it, it'll blow it and sound like an M80's going off. This air pack is out of service because the air pressure will take this out. It's about a 10-minute fix, and it's about a $2 O-ring, but we want to make sure that we can take this thing off and on. Another thing that's important is when you're making a cylinder swap out there, this pressure reducer moves by design. So how we get in there a lot of times, it's hard to make that coupling, and it's hard to thread it on there. When you jiggle this up and down when you're trying to make them threads, you can actually thread it on with your fingers just by moving this up and down. So that's an inspection point to make sure this is clear and free and moving well. But again, it's like everything else, we got to check all this stuff. In our mind, this thing is no different than the rifle is to the Army guy. What's the chant that they use? The same thing with the air pack. It's our respiratory life support system. We can't do the job without it, and it's messed up with all this other stuff we got to be checking now. That's part of our way of life, and so we got to do it.